Hey guys, my name is Jordan Hetrick. In this video, I'm going to show you my 5 best GoPro photography tips and tricks to help you guys get better photos with your GoPro. The tips I want to give you in this video are for taking photos with your GoPro. I know a lot of people buy their GoPro cameras to record videos, but a GoPro is also a really great tool for taking photos. So I'm going to share my favorite tips for taking photos with your GoPro camera. Tip number 1 is to shoot loose and edit tight. So this is a common thing you might hear in photography, and it's especially vital to use this tip when you're using a GoPro camera. The reason for this is that a GoPro has a wide-angle lens. So this lens on here is wide angle, which means that it's going to capture a perspective that looks further away than what your eye sees. So that's going to give you that loose shot, which means a wide shot. So you're going to get a lot of your scene in your photos. But that doesn't mean that you're stuck with that wide scene. Because there's a lot of resolution on the Hero 9 and the Hero 10 especially, you can take a little piece of your photo and edit it tight. So you can take a little piece out of it and kind of zoom in for a different perspective. You definitely want to remember that to capture a lot of perspective and then edit tight. Tip number 2 is which mode do I use? So there are a batch of modes here on your GoPro that are dedicated to taking photos. And you'll see it with the little photo icon on the top of the touchscreen. Now those photo modes are dedicated to taking either a single photo or burst of photos. And those have some special features, but you can also get photos when you're using other modes on your GoPro. So if you go over into the time-lapse modes, they actually have an output too for taking photos, and that's going to be at an interval. And then you're also able to record video and pull a still frame from that. And a still frame is used just like it is a photo, but it's just one frame out of those videos. So there are lots of different ways you can capture photos on your GoPro. The photo modes are the most specialized, and I'll tell you more about some of those features in just a second. But there's definitely times where you want to use those photo modes when you've got a photo in mind. Thanks to all of you who have already subscribed to my channel. For those of you who haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button and join me for more videos. Tip number 3 is to lower the ISO. And when you're taking photos with your GoPro, you're actually able to shoot with a really low ISO. For those of you who don't know what ISO is, because you're a beginning photographer or cinematographer, that's totally normal, and I'm not going to fully explain it. But what I want you to understand is that if you record at a lower ISO, it's going to give you much higher quality photos than if you record at a high number ISO. So a low number would be like 100 or 200, whereas a high ISO is like 1600 or 3200. And the difference is the speed at which light is absorbed into your camera's sensor, the speed at which your camera makes that photograph. So a lower ISO absorbs it more slowly, and it's just going to give you higher quality, crisper photos. The higher ISO is great for low light scenes, but it's going to give you all the noise, like those little specks in your shots. When you're taking photos with your GoPro, you can use the minimum ISO of 100. So you can just go onto the back screen here and go to the settings and go into ISO and just set the minimum ISO to 100. And that way when there's enough daylight for your camera, it will use that low ISO. Sometimes when you're recording videos, you have to record at a higher ISO because of some features we won't go into, but stabilization and stuff, you just need to record at a higher ISO to prevent having kind of jittery looking footage. But when you're using your GoPro to take photos, definitely tap into that low ISO for the best quality. Tip number 4 is how do I get myself in the photos? So I'm going to show you guys how you can get yourself in the action shots or in a selfie shot without having the camera at the end of your arm. So when you go ahead and you press that shutter button, if you're taking a photo, obviously it's just going to take it right away and you're going to have your arm in your shot. So there's a few ways you can get around doing that. So there's a self timer on the touch screen for the photo modes, and you can just tap on that and set the self timer to take a photo after 3 seconds or 10 seconds. And that'll give you time to press that shutter button and go get into your shot to get yourself in action. You can also use the time-lapse modes with the photo output at a set interval, and that's just going to continuously take shots. So you can press the shutter button, go over there, get in the shot, and come back when you're done with it. You can also use video mode, so just set up your camera, press record and start recording. You can go step in the shot. When you're done recording, you stop recording and you can pull a still frame out of that and use it just like a photo. For those of you who want to get deeper into your GoPro, I've created a video course that teaches you everything you need to know. Tons of people have found it really helpful, and I really hope that you become one of them. Check the links below for the video course for your camera. And tip number 5 is if you're going to be editing your photos on a computer, definitely shoot in RAW, and your GoPro will create a RAW and a JPEG file. But that RAW file really gives you a lot of flexibility to adjust the brightness and the darkness, and also to boost those colors. And you're just going to get more out of your shots than you get with that flattened JPEG. When you're in the photo modes, it's got an option to have a RAW output, and that's just a great thing to use for editing on the computer to get the highest quality photos possible. I know I said I was gonna give you 5 tips, but I can't help myself. One last tip is when you're taking photos with your GoPro camera, think about that single frame that you're trying to capture. When you're recording video, you kind of try to think of the overall scene and movement, and a lot more goes into your shots. But when you're trying to get a photo, you can just think about that one frame you want to capture and go out there and get it. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, see you soon.